Hi, my name is Francesco Rulli. I'm the CEO of Querlo, and today I'm here with Lorraine Parker Clegg. And as a HRCO with your experience in business, would like to talk to you about your perspective about the post-COVID, what lies ahead for us as in business, but also on a personal level from an HR perspective. And also, what do you think is the contribution of artificial intelligence and how this technology can help to surpass those difficult times?
Thank you. Pleasure to be with you. Let's start with the post-COVID situation. I think we're facing some interesting challenges, and I think an acceleration of some of the demands that certain demographic sections of our organizations have been placing on us in the past. And I talk specifically about the world that the Gen Y would like to operate in. And I think we're going to see an acceleration of more remote working. I think that most people are talking about that. Many organizations are signaling that they will not go back to the workplace, but that then creates another set of challenges. And I think at the forefront of all this is the need to make sure that that performance-driven environment, that execution excellence isn't lost by having teams that are diversified across geographies, home offices, or whatever it might be. And so I believe that we've got an opportunity to equip managers to better deal with this scenario. Many managers struggle on a day-to-day basis with the roles that they find themselves in, often through inadequacy of training. You know, they kind of get appointed and not trained. And then we've kind of just accelerated that with this remote working and challenge, something I've personally been doing for many, many years. And it's something that you really have to work at and to be very mindful of. So in this kind of new world, this new way of forward, we've got remote working that's going to need to be addressed, training that needs to be addressed for people, and also the technology that's associated with that. I think folks have now got used to operating on Zoom as we're doing today, or on Teams. All of those means of communicating become important, but they too need the right skill in order to manage. And so HR teams need to be able to equip leaders and managers to deal with that new scenario.
And in your opinion, looking at from a technology perspective, just like we're mentioning Zoom and so on, do you see an application of artificial intelligence in some aspects of surpassing the post-COVID? Or where do you think that organizations could use a little bit more help, and then from that perspective, technology companies, just like ours, for example, build the solutions that can help in that specific environment?
Yeah, I see technology playing a multifaceted approach. If I think about talent acquisition, which is going to be key to organizations as they rebuild and get the best talent on the bench that they can for the forthcoming 2 to 3 years as they combat the post-COVID challenges. The situation there is that talent acquisition can easily generate applications, screening opportunities that allow organizations to have that piece of work done in a very effective manner without sort of a human intervention. So I think we get a leapfrogging effect from COVID that will help with that. I think there's going to need to be trust enabled, that people feel that they can trust in those technologies to do the right thing. There's a lot of debate right now about the role of diversity and inclusion. So organizations need to make sure that the backdrop that feeds the AI is going to give them the right outcomes. So organizations need to be clear on the direction, their strategy, and to be sure that whatever AI is used feeds the right outcomes and doesn't distill down the efforts that they may have already started around things like diversity and inclusion. Similarly, if I talk, robotics to me plays a huge role. There are so many jobs that can be done in manufacturing organizations, even in the world of HR, through a robotic mean, a chat box means, etc. And I think we'll see the advent of that more, and that will rely on the human element for the more relationship aspects of the role that we conduct.
Very interesting, very interesting. So I can share with you a little bit about what we have seen interviewing different executives. One aspect has been interesting, obviously, as you mentioned, is the work from home approach, in which, suddenly thousands of people find themselves let's say they subscribe to be part of a corporation that probably has an address and an office space, and there's a clear set of rules. Instead, suddenly they find themselves working from home and a little bit losing their identity in terms of also leading the teams, or at least even from a visual perspective. Who am I? What is the right approach? How should I dress from working from home, and what part of the home I should be in? And we have been actually building chatbots that actually provide this type of set of advice, because ironically, sometimes it's actually difficult to discover those directions. We even built chatbots to estimate mortality rate, so that everybody in the intimacy and in their from their, anonymously, they can check what is their level of risk without having to share with HR their concerns, and then instead just checking for themselves and their loved ones what the risk is. And another thing that has been very interesting is that we actually have been building now is for mental health, both for depression and anxiety, to allow employees anonymously, without having to share details to the HR department, to check the level of risk they're taking from a mental health perspective, and also provide some basic advice on how to proceed to find help and so on. So those are little things that has been built. And one thing that is, let's say, from the 30,000 feet perspective, is actually to build digital assistants that become like a best friend for the employee. So it doesn't matter if you're working from home, or you're in the office, or you're traveling for a business trip, whatever question you might have, you can always refer to this digital assistant that to a certain point, because of the machine learning perspective, can even give you advice where is a good restaurant in the neighborhood where you are to go to, from a perspective of the experience of the other executives in your company, as well as provide you how many days you have for your leave, or what's the next training program, or listen to your goals in life. So it's very interesting from our perspective what's happening. From a perspective of enterprise solutions, do you feel that the current enterprise solutions that are on the market are satisfactory to the employees, or they are still a little bit complex or clunky or difficult to use and become a challenge from an employee perspective going into an HR platform?
Yeah, I'd like to come at this from several perspectives, one as a CHRO, one as a consumer of such things as well. And I think keeping that perspective and balance is important. There's a lot of reluctance in organizations. It does depend on an organization's agility to adapt to new technology and adopt new technology. So the change management associated with any piece of new activity is very, very important. And I think we can't lose sight of that. But I also think on the receiving end, the easier that we can make things for people, the better. What do I mean by that? Well, for me, there's nothing more frustrating than getting through to some kind of a chatbot situation. And I know that I need to speak to someone. I know the chatbot's not going to be able to help me with this particular issue, because typically they're relatively linear, not yet so situationally capable. And so I think as a consumer, I know when I can just kind of press the buttons and go through for the balance on this or the current situation. But when I've got something specific, I want the means and the ability to speak to a person. So I do think that, the bot route, we've got to find the right balance. I love the predictability aspects of what you were talking about, the AI that helps map people's moods, performance levels, attendance levels, to allow some predictability to leadership around what might be happening around engagement. I think the advent of technology that actually is out there right now that does that is phenomenal, and will have a greater place in any CHRO's agenda. I do think the talent acquisition piece and talent management piece does definitely lend itself to a huge amount of AI, the testing that can be done remotely. You just don't necessarily need a people intervention to do that. So in a world of talent, that's going to help save time.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much for your contribution. I really appreciated your time today.
You're very welcome. Thank you.